All right, so today we're going to dive into something pretty interesting. I like to call it illegal productivity.
Illegal productivity.
Yeah, it's kind of like working smarter, not harder,
Okay.
and getting those results that just seem almost unfair.
I love that illegal productivity. That's a
Yeah.
really cool way to put it.
Yeah, and so today we're going to go over three main things that'll help us unlock that potential.
Okay. Sounds good.
So the first one is called the Pareto Principle.
Pareto Principle?
Yeah, and then we got the Zeigarnik Effect,
Okay.
and then the championship mentality.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Let's start with that first one, the Pareto Principle.
Okay, so think about it. Have you ever felt like you just have so much to do, like you're drowning in to-dos, but you're not really getting anywhere with the stuff that really matters?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I feel like that's most weeks for me.
Right, so that's where the Pareto Principle comes in. It's also known as the 80-20 rule.
80-20 rule.
Yeah, and it basically says that 80% of your results come from just 20% of your efforts.
Okay, I see where this is going.
All right, so it's all about finding that crucial 20%
Uh-huh.
and really like honing in on those actions.
I like that.
So for example, imagine a student that's studying for a huge exam.
Okay.
They could spend hours and hours,
Mhm.
memorizing every single little detail.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, just having a good understanding of the main ideas will actually get them way further.
Yeah, it's about working smarter, not harder.
Exactly. So it's all about finding those like high impact areas
All right.
and then just focusing all your energy there.
Okay, that makes sense in theory. But how do we figure out what that 20% is in our own lives, It
Yeah.
seems kind of abstract.
It definitely takes some self-reflection,
Okay.
but it's definitely worth it.
Okay.
Think about your goals,
Mm-hmm.
your projects, your everyday tasks.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, which actions are really driving the results that I want?
Right.
Which ones actually make a difference?
Okay, I like that.
And then there's another level to this. It's called the Pareto squared principle.
Pareto square.
Yeah. So basically you take that 20% and then you apply that 80-20 rule to it again.
Whoa.
So you're like laser focusing on like the most impactful actions within the already impactful actions.
So you're saying we focus on the 20% of the 20%?
Exactly. You got it.
Okay.
It's about getting like hyper specific
Okay.
about what you're going to do to get those results.
Gotcha.
Think about writing a report, for example.
Okay. Report writing.
Like the 20% might be just the writing process itself.
Okay.
But the Pareto squared principle would say,
Mm-hmm.
let's focus on the 20% within that writing process.
Right.
That actually gets you the best results.
I'm following you.
So maybe it's like crafting a really compelling intro or structuring your arguments in a really clear and concise way.
Okay, so it's about finding those points that really give you leverage within each task.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you can amplify your efforts.
Gotcha.
Cool.
I like it. So that Pareto principle, that's pretty cool. But what about that second principle you mentioned, the Zeigarnik Effect? What is that all about?
Okay. So have you ever noticed how like you have that one unfinished task
Yeah.
and it just keeps like nagging at you in the back of your mind?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like it just takes up way more space than it deserves.
Totally. I have like a whole list of those.
Right. Well, that's the Zeigarnik effect.
Okay.
It's like a little quirk in our brains where we just can't stop thinking about those incomplete tasks.
Interesting. So how can we like use that to our advantage?
It's actually a really powerful way to beat procrastination.
Really?
Yeah. So the trick is to intentionally leave tasks unfinished.
Wait, what?
I know it sounds kind of crazy,
Yeah.
but just hear me out.
Okay, I'm listening.
So by just like starting a task,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's just for a couple minutes,
Okay.
you actually trigger that loop in your brain
Uh-huh.
and it makes you want to go back and finish it later.
So it's like we're kind of planting a seed
Exactly.
that will like eventually grow into action.
Yeah, and think about it like this. Just starting a task, even a tiny bit,
Yeah.
it helps you break through that initial resistance.
Right, because it doesn't feel as overwhelming anymore.
Exactly. Because you already took that first step.
I see. I've definitely noticed that myself.
And there's actually a way to make this even stronger. It's called the Zeigarnik squared effect.
Squared effect.
Yeah. So basically you take that initial starting point
Okay.
and you break it down into even smaller, like micro steps.
Okay, so instead of like just starting the task, you're making like mini starting points.
Exactly.
Got it. Can you give me an example?
Sure. So let's say you need to write a blog post.
Okay, blog post.
So instead of staring at that blank page and feeling totally overwhelmed,
Right.
you could break it down into tiny steps.
Okay, like what?
Like step 1, open a new document and give it a title.
Okay.
Step 2, jot down like 3 bullet points you want to cover.
Okay.
And then step 3, find one relevant link to include.
Oh, wow. So you've basically started the task like 3 times already
Yeah,
without actually doing any of the hard work.
exactly. And because those little steps are so small and easy,
Yeah.
you're way less likely to procrastinate.
That's actually really smart.
So it's kind of like tricking your brain into feeling like you've already made progress.
It's like a Jedi mind trick for productivity.
Exactly. And it
Cool.
just makes you want to keep going.
I love it. Okay, so we got the Zeigarnik effect, but you mentioned something about a reverse Zeigarnik effect. What's that?
Oh, yeah. So that one's all about managing distractions.
Okay, there.
It's about like making those tempting distractions harder to get to.
So like putting your phone in a different room or using one of those apps that block websites.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like putting obstacles between you and the things that pull you away from your work.
Got it. So the harder it is to get to those distractions, the less likely you are to actually give in.
Exactly.
That's smart.
All right, so now let's move on to the third pillar of illegal productivity,
Okay, hit me.
the championship mentality.
Championship mentality.
This one's all about shifting your perspective and focusing on the long game.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Think about like a basketball team that's going for the championship.
Mm.
They don't expect to win every single game, right?
No, of course not. There are going to be some losses along the way.
Exactly. But those losses don't like define them.
Right.
They learn from those mistakes. They
Yeah.
adapt and they keep their eyes on that ultimate prize.
So it's kind of about resilience and seeing those setbacks as like a part of the process.
Exactly. So when it comes to productivity,
Yeah.
it means accepting that you're not always going to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
You're not always going to hit every deadline.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
It's about progress, not perfection.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
about focusing on getting better over time
Yeah.
instead of beating yourself up over every little mistake.
That takes a lot of pressure off.
Right.
And it makes it easier to experiment and grow.
Exactly.
Okay, so how do we actually apply this championship mentality to our everyday lives?
It's all about adopting a growth mindset,
Okay.
embracing those challenges as opportunities to learn,
Yeah.
and celebrating those little wins along the way.
I like that. But can you give me an example of how that would look in a real life situation?
Sure. So let's say you're working on this big project
Okay.
and you hit like a major roadblock.
Yeah.
So instead of just getting discouraged and giving up, you could see it as like a chance to learn.
So you'd ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Or how can I do this differently next time?
Exactly. And within this whole championship mentality,
Mm.
there's this powerful concept called action beats time.
Action beats time. I like that. What's that about?
It means that sometimes like overthinking and overanalyzing can actually hold you back.
Yeah.
Sometimes the best way to figure things out is to just take action.
Right. Even if it's not perfect.
Yeah, because a lot of times clarity comes from action.
Not the other way around.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about the Pareto Principle, the Zeigarnik Effect, and the championship mentality.
Right.
But how does putting all three of these things together create that illegal level of productivity we talked about?
Okay, so imagine this. You're someone who just like effortlessly crushes their goals.
Yep.
Everyone's wondering, how do they do it?
Right.
You've mastered the art of finding and focusing on that 20% that actually makes a difference.
Hmm.
You've learned how to use your brain's natural tendencies to stop procrastinating and make starting tasks easy.
Right.
And you've adopted that long-term perspective where setbacks are just opportunities to learn
Yeah.
and you're always focused on getting better.
So you're describing someone who's not just productive, but also resilient and adaptable.
Exactly.
Like they don't get bogged down by those challenges that life throws at them.
Exactly. It's not about working yourself to the bone
Right.
or becoming some kind of robot.
Yeah.
It's about working smarter, not harder,
Mm-hmm.
and finding a sustainable way to be productive
Yeah.
so you can achieve amazing results without burning out.
It's about unlocking that potential that's inside all of us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the best part is anyone can do it.
Really?
It's not about some like secret talent or ability.
Okay.
It's just about understanding these principles
Yeah.
and using them consistently.
I like that this has been really insightful. I feel inspired and ready to put these principles into practice.
Me too. And I hope our listeners feel the same way.
Yeah.
But before we go, I want to leave everyone with something to think about. Okay, so think about a goal that you've been putting off, or maybe a project that just seems way too big.
Yeah, it's overwhelming.
What's like one tiny step you could take today to kind of kickstart that Zeigarnik effect?
Like maybe opening up a new document or just sketching out a quick outline.
Yeah, or even just like writing down your goal on a sticky note.
Right, anything to just get the ball rolling.
Exactly. It's about creating that little spark
Uh-huh.
that'll make it easier to come back to it later.
And remember, you don't have to do everything perfectly right away.
Right.
Just embrace that championship mentality.
Yeah, focus on making progress little by little.
And celebrate those small wins.
Because really, this isn't just about getting more done.
It's not.
It's about like designing a life
Hmm.
where you feel in control, you feel
Yeah.
energized.
Like you can do anything.
And like you can actually achieve anything you set your mind to.
I love that.
So go out there, try these principles out.
Yeah, experiment.
See what happens.
You might surprise yourself.
You really might.
And remember, we're all in this together.
Yeah.
So like, share your experiences,
Mhm.
support each other,
Right.
and let's keep pushing those boundaries,
Yeah, let's see what's possible.
Okay.
Well, that's all for today's deep dive into illegal productivity.
Great episode.
Until next time, keep those minds sharp.
And those actions focused.